Fear is the silent assassin of human potential. It doesn't roar, it whispers. It creeps into your thoughts when you're alone, tightening its grip around your chest, convincing you to stay small, to stay safe, to stay silent. And while you wait for courage to come, fear steals your time, your opportunities, your future. But here is the hidden truth nobody dares to tell you. Fear does not need to destroy you. Because Stoicism carries a weapon, an ultimate weapon, forged over centuries, that can cut fear down at its root. The question is, do you have the courage to wield it? Think about this. How many times in your life have you been stopped, not by real danger, but by imagined terror? The job interview you never went to, the words you never spoke, the risk you never took. Looking back, how many doors stayed closed because fear convinced you not to knock? Fear is not only an emotion, fear is a parasite. It feeds on your hesitation, it feeds on your doubt, it feeds on every second you delay. And if you let it grow unchecked, it devours your life. But here's the part that should terrify you most. Fear does not always shout. Sometimes it disguises itself as reason. It whispers, "Be careful, wait until you're ready, play it safe." It convinces you that paralysis is wisdom. And by the time you wake up, years have slipped through your fingers. The Stoics saw this danger clearly. They lived in an age of war, exile, disease, and death. And yet, they left us writings filled not with trembling, but with clarity. Why? Because they carried a mental weapon, a way of thinking so sharp that fear could not stand against it. And this is the weapon I want to hand you today. But first, let me show you the enemy. Fear operates in 3 stages. First, it invades your imagination. You see not what is, but what could go wrong. Second, it freezes your action. The simplest steps, making a call, standing tall, speaking truth, suddenly feel impossible. Third, it rewrites your memory. You tell yourself a story that justifies your inaction. It wasn't the right time. I wasn't ready. Maybe it wasn't meant to be. And this cycle repeats until your life is nothing but excuses wrapped in regret. But here's the cliffhanger nobody expects. Fear is not born from reality. It is born from interpretation. The same event that paralyzes one person can empower another. A battlefield for one is a training ground for another. Which means fear is not in the world. Fear is in your mind. And if it is in your mind, it can be defeated in your mind. Now, the Stoic weapon against fear rests on a single principle: face every outcome before it arrives. This is the practice of premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Imagine the worst that can happen. Not to torture yourself, not to wallow in despair, but to strip fear of its disguise, because fear feeds on the unknown. Once the unknown is dragged into the light, fear withers. Let me give you an example. You fear losing your job. Your mind whispers, "If that happens, my life will be over." But the Stoic weapon tells you, face it now. Imagine it. You lose your job. You feel the shame, the panic. Then you trace the path. You would cut expenses, look for other work, maybe even discover a new direction. You realize, painful, yes, but survivable. Fear loses its claws. Or take rejection. You fear confessing your feelings because what if they laugh? The weapon says, picture it. They reject you. You feel embarrassed. For a moment, it stings. But then life moves on, and you discover strength in honesty. Suddenly, the fear that felt like death shrinks to a scratch. Here is the hidden power. Once you rehearse the worst, you realize you can endure it. And once you realize you can endure it, fear has nothing left to hold over you. Marcus Aurelius, a man who led armies and ruled an empire, wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." He was not writing theory. He was sharpening the weapon. He was showing us that fear collapses when you expose its hollow core. But here's what nobody tells you. This practice is not comfortable. Facing your fears in advance feels like drinking poison. Your heart races, your stomach twists, your mind resists. But that is the training. The Stoic warrior does not wait for fear to strike in the heat of battle. He trains with it daily, until its tricks no longer surprise him. Let me ask you, what are you avoiding right now because of fear? What is the decision that sits heavy on your chest? The conversation that burns on your tongue? The risk that you replay in your head every night? Picture it now, don't look away. Imagine the worst-case outcome. Trace it until the end. Can you endure it? The answer, if you are honest, is almost always yes. And that is the weapon. Fear loses its throne when you dethrone the unknown. But the Stoics didn't stop there, because fear has another face, the fear of death itself. And this, they knew, was the root of all others. Seneca wrote, "He who fears death will never do anything worthy of a living man." Why? Because when death is terrifying, life becomes fragile. Every choice feels dangerous. But once you accept death as natural, as already chosen, the rest of your fears evaporate. This is the ultimate Stoic paradox. By contemplating death, you learn to live without fear. By rehearsing loss, you discover freedom. By holding the worst in your mind, you become unshakable in reality. But let me warn you, the world doesn't want you to practice this. Society thrives on fear. Fear sells products. Fear drives control. Fear keeps people obedient. If you carry this Stoic weapon, you become untouchable. And untouchable people cannot be manipulated. So the question remains, will you keep letting fear whisper you into a half-lived life? Or will you pick up the weapon that has been waiting for you for centuries? Because here is the chilling truth. Every day you delay, fear grows stronger. Every day you wait, it digs deeper into your mind, and one day, if you never fight back, you will wake up surrounded not by danger but by the ghosts of all the chances you never took. But if you face it now, if you begin the training today, then every step you take becomes an act of defiance. Fear will still whisper, but you will smile, because you already know its secrets. You already rehearsed its worst, and you already survived. What if fear has already been writing your story without you noticing? What if the job you never applied for, the love you never confessed, the risks you never dared, were not accidents, but victories for fear? Stop for a second and look honestly. How many chapters of your life were stolen? Not by failure, but by avoidance. This is the terrifying truth. Most people do not live. They exist in a prison guarded by fear, waiting for the right time. But the right time never comes, and the door never opens, unless you force it open with the weapon the Stoics handed us. So how do you wield this weapon in daily life? Let's break it down into 3 steps. Step 1. Expose the fear. Never let fear hide in the shadows. Write it down. Name it. Define exactly what you are afraid of, because what remains vague becomes monstrous. When you say, "I'm just anxious," the fear multiplies. But when you say, "I'm afraid of failing this meeting and losing credibility," you shrink the monster into something you can confront. Marcus Aurelius wrote that, "If you seek tranquility, do less, or do what's essential. And do it as reason commands." Fear thrives on chaos. When you strip life to essentials, fear loses ground. Step 2. Rehearse the worst. This is the heart of premeditatio malorum. Don't stop at naming the fear. Step into it in your imagination. Ask, what's the worst that can happen? If I fail, then what? If I lose, then what? If I am rejected, then what? Trace the line all the way down. And when you reach the bottom, you will discover something shocking. You can survive it. You can rebuild. You can endure. Fear hates this practice. It wants to stay blurry, overwhelming. But once you face it with detail, it collapses. Step 3. Act while fear is watching. This is where most people fail. They wait until the fear is gone before acting. But fear never disappears on its own. You must move with fear still in the room. The Stoics didn't preach absence of fear. They preached mastery over it. The act of doing what frightens you after rehearsing the worst transforms fear from a wall into a doorway. Ask yourself, which decision right now is fear trying to steal from you? The conversation, the risk, the change. What would happen if you simply did it while your hands still tremble? That moment is when the Stoic weapon slices through chains. But let me give you a warning. Fear will fight back. Once you start using this weapon, fear becomes cunning. It will disguise itself as practicality. Don't rush, think it through, wait until it's safer. But behind that mask is the same thief. Recognize it, expose it, strike it. Seneca once said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality." Think about that. The majority of your pain has never come from real events. It has come from your own mind rehearsing disasters that never arrived. You've been stabbing yourself with shadows. Isn't it time you stopped? But here's what nobody wants to admit. Fear is addictive. It gives you an excuse not to try. It comforts you with safety. It whispers that avoiding risk is the smart move. And yet, every comfort bought with fear becomes a chain. And when the years pass, those chains harden into regret. So let me ask you again, with brutal honesty, how many years are you willing to trade for the illusion of safety? How many dreams are you willing to bury so that fear can sleep peacefully inside you? The Stoics had an answer. They believed that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. Epictetus, once a slave, said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And mastery begins with facing what terrifies you most. Let's make this practical. Imagine tomorrow you stand before a choice. Speak the truth at risk of rejection, or stay silent and safe. Fear will scream for silence. The Stoic weapon whispers, rehearse the rejection, own it, and then speak anyway. Or imagine you're offered a chance to change careers, but the risk is high. Fear paints 1,000 disasters. The Stoic weapon demands, walk through each disaster in your mind until you see you can endure them, and then step forward anyway. This is how you take your power back. Not by killing fear once and for all, but by making fear your training partner. Each time you move while it whispers, you grow. Each time you swing the weapon, fear grows weaker. Now, let me reveal something darker. Fear will never fully vanish. Even the strongest Stoics felt it. But here's the difference. For them, fear became a signal, not a master. When fear rose, it told them, here lies the path of growth, and instead of retreating, they advanced. That is why Marcus Aurelius could rule an empire without collapsing under terror. That is why Epictetus could endure slavery with dignity. That is why Seneca could face exile and death with calm. And that is why you too can face your battles without being paralyzed. But here is the decision that only you can make. Will you keep obeying fear, or will you raise the weapon? Because every day you choose. Every action is either submission or defiance. And every choice builds the story of your life. If you've stayed with me until now, it means one thing: you are tired of being chained. You are ready to fight back. And that decision itself proves you are capable. Because those who seek wisdom are already stronger than those who run from it. So here's your challenge. Tonight, write down the one fear that has been holding you hostage. Expose it. Rehearse the worst-case outcome. And tomorrow, act while fear is still whispering. This is not just philosophy. This is training. This is war. And the battleground is your mind. If this truth resonates with you, imagine what more you'll uncover by walking further with us. Subscribe now, and let's sharpen this weapon together. Because those who live by this wisdom attract not only courage, but freedom. And remember this final thought: fear will knock again. It always does. But next time, you won't cower. You'll open the door, stare it in the face, and strike first. That is the Stoic way. That is the ultimate weapon. The next lesson may shock you even more, because if Stoicism teaches us how to destroy fear, it also teaches us how to turn pain itself into unstoppable strength. And that, my friend, may change your life forever.